Well, welcome into the Reef, episode 5 here on Teal Town USA. As always, joined by one Mr. Kevin Lacy and the voice of the Barracuda, Nick Nollenberger. And since we last spoke, the Barracuda have had a historical win and a historical loss while going 5-4-1. The Cuda's historical win came in a victory over the Ontario Reign, where the Cuda were able to put up 2 more goals than Waffles' Tanya 8. That was awesome. Now, November was tough, where the Cuda had 8 losses in 9 games, but since then, the Cuda have points in 5 of their last 6. We've seen Trevor Carrick get a hat trick. Korenar had a career-high 42 saves. Brodzinski's been trending up. Bergmann got called up. We saw Suomela get called up, unfortunately injured since then. Joachim Blichfeld got his call up this week, and Noah Gregor got his first NHL goal. So, who else are we looking for, boys? I mean, Nollenberger. I like Hobgawaks lately. How's he looking?
I mean, it seems like the entire team is starting to turn a corner. I mean, I believe they're in the top 10 in goals per game. The problem has been consistency defensively. Special teams have been a point of contention. I think the last time we talked about the penalty kill. The penalty kill sits near the bottom of the league. I think last time we checked, it was 31st out of 31 teams. So, that's been a bit of an issue. That was the difference on Saturday in the bounce-back game for Ontario. After the Barracuda handed them a 9-2 loss, Ontario came back with 3 power play goals. Yeah. The PK kind of tightened up on Wednesday. It wasn't a factor. So that's kind of been the difference, I feel like, in games, especially during kind of the rougher patches have been special teams. The power play has been pretty good as of late. It's hovering around the top 10. I think on home ice, it's second in the entire league. So power play, also just offense, 5-on-5 play. The Barracuda are a plus team, but it's been late in games, third periods, where they're one of the worst teams in terms of plus-minus, and it's also been a bit of a struggle on the penalty kill. But that comes with a young team. I mean, they're the youngest team in the league, under 23 years of age average. So there's going to be some growing pains, but it certainly seems like everybody's starting to tighten up, and some of that youth is starting to learn a little bit from some of the mistakes that, are par for the course early in a season.
Yeah, Nick, and with the defense especially, I mean, that's the thing that I've been trying to key on since the last time we did one of our In the Reef podcasts. I feel like net front presence in terms of helping out the goaltending was something that I've been noticing of an issue lately. Have you noticed anything improving, or is it just the defense needing more time to gel? Do you have any thoughts on what's going on?
I think one of the big issues was the defense kind of getting used to each other. I mean, Trevor Carrick was a guy who, we talked about just a moment ago off air, but a guy that certainly the expectations were pretty high just because of his numbers that he put up last year. One of the most, offensively dynamic defensemen in the American League last year. But he began the season up top with the Sharks. It's a new organization. It's a new system. According to him, the things that they're doing here in San Jose are quite different than what they asked him to do in the Carolina organization. So sometimes I think that gets lost a little bit in the shuffle. You look at the numbers, you expect that stuff to pick up really where it left off the season before, but you've got to kind of give a bit of a grace period in terms of that adjustment. And you would think maybe that's turned a corner as well for him. I mean, seeing him score that hat trick the other night, the first of his career, he had only scored, multiple goals in a game one time prior. So a little bit out of the blue, but certainly encouraging to see. He's a offensively minded defenseman, and at this level in the AHL, he could fill in on a spot start in the NHL, but the AHL level, he's a dynamic offensive producer. So, he had just 2 goals prior, no assists, still has no assists, but he gets the 3 goals and now up to 5 goals on the season. Certainly an encouraging sign to see, maybe him gaining a bit of confidence now at this point in the season.
Yeah, and Trevor Carrick was a player that I was really excited about obtaining for the Barracuda this season. I mean, obviously Calder Cup champion, and he'd been in that organization for a while. When I attend games, one of the things I really like to look at is how the players act during warm-up and just their overall, just how they're coming off. And Trevor Carrick in training camp and at the start of the year seemed just not loose, just very tight with everything. Just, I guess he was finding his way. Now when I see him, when he gets interviewed, obviously you're going to be really loose after a hat trick like Trevor Carrick did on Wednesday. But he just overall, when I see him, the interviews that you post on the Barracuda YouTube and just all of your media posts and everything that Carrick's involved with, he just seems like he's starting to find his way now with the team. Have you noticed anything just like in the locker room? Does he seem a little like he's fitting in better?
From the start, he's a happy-go-lucky type of guy. Just has kind of that personality that draws people to him. He's a guy that you want to hang out with away from the rink. He just has a fun personality. He's an easygoing type of guy. So the transition coming here wasn't a major issue for him. I thought that he transitioned quickly in terms of being comfortable with the guys, but they also gave him a letter right away just because of his experience and where the rest of the team is at. No surprise with that, with the Calder Cup championship. And that comes with a little bit of pressure trying to be a vocal voice in the locker room with guys that, you don't really know that well. So there's a bit of adjustment there. I mean, I think you got to factor in, apologize guys, they're doing some vacuuming here, but you got to factor in the fact that he's coming across the country, played his entire, career in one organization. It's a new organization, new guys that he's got to get comfortable with. Again, he started up with the Sharks, so now he's got to get used to a whole nother team. I don't know if that's the major factor and the reason for what, the slow start for him, but I think you got to factor in that stuff because I know if we went to a different job and we had new coworkers and, we didn't know anybody, and even if you have an outgoing personality and you're talkative, there's still that kind of weird, awkwardness that goes along with meeting new people and getting comfortable in a new setting. So just the, scoring the 3 goals on Wednesday, I think is probably an indication that he is feeling more comfortable. I talked to him actually today at practice, got a few audio quotes from him, and that was the vibe from him. He said, I do feel like I'm getting more comfortable. I feel like I'm starting to understand the systems more, just kind of what the expectations are from the organization. So I would expect things to start trending upward for him.
Yeah. Is it the same thing for Jonny Brodzinski, you think, coming over from spending his whole career with the Kings organization? And I even called him out on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. I said that I thought, because I've been a fan of him his whole career, especially with Ontario. I thought he was fantastic against the Barracuda. But I know he was coming off of a major shoulder surgery last year, and I felt like just the effort wasn't there. And I said, if you want to get back to the NHL, you have to earn yourself a call-up. Now, I'm not saying that my tweet sparked anything by any means, but I did happen to notice that shortly thereafter, he started liking some of my random one-off tweets, which I was like, oh, did he see that? And then now all of a sudden he's got 9 points in 6 games. So shut up, Mr. Lacy. I'm going to give you the effort. Do you think Johnny is
it's all about you, dude.
Feeling a little better too?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to admit to the fact that the tweet maybe got him going, but hey, whatever motivates you, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it is. It definitely has been a factor changing organizations. I mean, the system that they run down in LA, he admitted just the other day when he had that big game in that 9-2 win. The systems are quite a bit different. What they ask you to do in San Jose is a lot different than what they asked you to do in LA. So that was a factor. Again, another guy that's been up and down. He also, you mentioned he had that bad shoulder injury last year, who missed most of the year. Well, he got dinged up again this year. It wasn't the same shoulder, but he got hurt again, so he missed a couple games, and that messed with some of his rhythm. But you can see over this 6-game stretch in which he has points in his last 6 games, I mean, he's just dominating. He's a dominating American League player when he's on his game and he's playing with confidence. But, man, it was fun to watch him down in Ontario. It's fun to watch him right now because he's just playing with his swagger. And he gave credit to his line mates, and deservingly so. It feels like he's got some good chemistry with the group they have him with right now. But, I mean, he's just a different player than what we saw a month and a half ago. I mean, he is just he's all over the ice. He's a puck hound. He's quick. And I actually talked to Mike Stothers, who's the head coach of the Ontario Reign, the other day, and he talked about Brodzinski, and Brodzinski said he's one of his favorite coaches, if not his favorite coach that he's had during his pro career. But Stothers had some very complimentary comments about him as well. But one thing he said, you know what, a guy like that, you just want to sit there and watch him shoot a puck because he can shoot as good as anybody. I'd put him up against any guy in the NHL. He's got that type of release, that type of shot, but he can do other things as well. He's kind of he's pretty well built. He's about 6 foot, but he's pretty stout. He can add a physical element to his game. So wouldn't be surprised if Brodzinski gets another look up in the NHL just by the way he's playing, the type of caliber player I think he is and can be. I think if he got a shot healthy and was feeling himself, had his game going in the direction that we know it can go, I think he'd probably have an opportunity to stick with the Sharks, because I think that highly of him as a player, seeing him, in Ontario prior to this year for the last few years. I mean, just a dominating American League player. There's no reason why he couldn't go up to the NHL and contribute. Maybe not at the same pace, but still as a very productive offensive force at the NHL level.
I really look forward to post-game comments where he, name checks Lacy as, the key component to all of his changes.
I didn't think anything of it until he got into my Twitter news feed and went, oh, he's seeing what I'm writing.
I guess it's one. Yeah, right. It's one thing when you can say it, you don't know if they see it. They see it, you're like, oh man,
it wasn't meant to be a call out, but hey, maybe it
whatever it
accidentally
takes.
Became one. I don't know.
Whatever it takes.
Well, one of the things that we obviously are aware of as Sharks fans, of course, fans of the big club are clearly going to be aware of the fact that there have been some changes behind the bench. Obviously, you have Evgeni Nabokov, Mike Ricci, Roy Sommer, all getting call-ups, if you will. So how does this impact the Barracuda bench going forward, and what are the changes fans can see there?
Yep, I just did a video actually today with our general manager, Joe Will, that's actually on YouTube right now. If fans want to go check it out, it's about 13 minutes long, just kind of giving a bit more clarity on what Barracuda fans should expect from a coach's standpoint, who's going to kind of fill those roles. Just an overall kind of look at the organization from an American League standpoint. Mike Chiasson, Jimmy Botto, those are going to be the two co-coaches. They didn't give them the headline as co-head coaches. They're co-coaches. They're going to take over the role for what you would expect for the rest of the year. And Roy Sommer obviously went up. Evgeni Nabokov has went up as the goaltending coach. Mike Ricci has went up as an assistant coach as well. So that just kind of shuffles everybody back into a weird spot. So you got two young coaches. With Chiasson and Bono, I think they're very capable of taking over this role. They're in their career in terms of coaches, very green. They're really only a year and a half into their coaching careers, but Bono was around the program for a long time as a tough guy in the American League and in the Coast. And Mike Chiasson, a really intelligent hockey mind. They're pretty excited about him. He was a scout for a couple of years, just like Bono was before they took over as assistant coaches. So, there's going to be an adjustment period, but, from the tone that Joe Will had and the things that he had to say, I think, he feels perfectly comfortable with the guys being in the hands of those young coaches. But again, there's going to be an adjustment period. Roy Sommer, he's about the most consistent thing, in this organization over its history. He's been here for 22 seasons as an assistant coach or as a head coach in the AHL, a couple seasons as an assistant with the Sharks. So, going to be weird without him on the bench. So, there's going to be an adjustment there. It's a different voice for the players, but, hopefully they can pick up kind of where the team was trending, because the team was trending in upward direction, I felt, over the last couple of weeks. But we'll see. Only time will tell on how things go from here.
Well, I think it's about time that the Bolo came back to the NHL behind the bench. Come on.
Yeah, what do you guys think about that? You guys like it?
I don't know if you're familiar, but a couple years ago, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, there was a Twitter account that began called @NHL Ties. And
wow,
this guy would just watch clearly had the center ice package, was watching every game, and just really pointing out whether it wasn't so much coaches on occasion, but he was really focused on the broadcasters. And it was, if you had the dimple right, the teardrop, all sorts of things went into this. It was the way you held your microphone. When you were holding it, if you were blocking the knot, it was called the oak method. Couldn't be like this. Had to be off to the side because got to show it off. And
gotcha.
And there were a few people. I'll be honest. There's a few broadcasters in the NHL that were when they met the guy in person more than a couple times. He was met with, "You You know, you ruined my life with this stupid account. But I'm all for at NHL Bolos. But
Okay.
I don't know that there's going to be
Probably available.
I don't know that this, right? But I just don't know that there's going to be much in the way of competition. But
no, I think he's in a bit of a league of his own. But I will have you know this: I have already looked at Bolo ties because we did have a CUDA Country Day coming up later in the season, and it was supposed to honor Roy Sommer bobblehead. He's only been asking for it for about 21 years, so we finally got him one, and now he leaves and he goes back up to the NHL. But in honor of Roy, I will find a bolo tie of some sort. We're going to try to get the whole staff to wear them. We talked about even trying to give away bolo ties as maybe a giveaway promotional type thing, but it didn't come to be. We've got the bobblehead though, so we'll have to rock some bolo ties in honor of Roy. But in his fashion, in very much Roy Sommer fashion, he rocked the bolo tie in his return to the NHL. And hey, I tip my cap to him. That was impressive.
Oh man. Yeah, and Roy Sommer, Coach Sommer, first game officially as Sharks' new assistant head coach, still found himself on the Barracuda bench on Wednesday. So my question is, does he technically get another win to his resume, or is this officially co-number win for Michael Chason and Jimmy Bono?
I think with Roy on the bench, it's probably going to be his win. It was such a whirlwind leading into the game on Wednesday just because, everybody found out this information about an hour and a half before puck drop. So, everybody's scrambling. Nobody knows what's going on. I didn't know that Roy was going to be on the bench until I looked down and saw him on the bench. So that just shows that no one really knew what was going on. I thought he may not be on the bench. I had heard the information that he was going to be named an associate coach. So I knew he was leaving. But I just wasn't sure whether he'd be on the bench. So I saw him down on the bench and said, okay, here we go. And, hey, he was on the bench. Team won. I think that's probably his win. Jimmy and Mike can start their win streaks starting hopefully on Saturday.
Nice. So one last question just about the coaches, because the Toronto Marlies recently went through this where Sheldon Keefe was promoted to the NHL club, and they had Rob Davison and AJ McLean split duties for all of about 2 games, and then Greg Moore ended up being named the head coach of the Marlies. Do you see a situation where Bono and Chason are only the co-head coach for a few games and then the Sharks bring someone else in, or do you think this is going to be it for an indefinite period?
I certainly think that's a good question. At this point, there's no indication that these guys aren't going to be the guys. There was nothing that was kind of hinted at me that someone else would be coming in the near future. Pretty much, it was described to me that these are going to be the guys moving forward for the remainder of the season. Now, after this year, according to Joe, they're going to go back to a traditional structure. They're not going to try to, start some new trendy thing where you have 2 coaches. That's just something they're not going to do. But for now,
unless you win the Calder Cup, then
maybe you start it. You see dual quarterbacks nowadays, in football. But at this point, it looks like these are going to be the guys. And I think in order for them to have success, they've got to have the full commitment from the organization, from the brass, that they know, somebody's not just got to slide in, right? And the same message is being told to the players as well. There needs to be some clarity and some transparency for these guys. So, all indications pointing these guys are going to be all year, and that's what Joe said today when I spoke to him, and I assume that's going to be the case for the rest of the year. So, I would assume these are going to be the guys.
All right. I don't know that you've heard anything, but, as we're discussing this on a Friday night, Rodil was put on waivers earlier today with the expectations that he will clear. Do you expect to see him on the ice tomorrow for the Barracuda?
Yeah, I would expect him to play tomorrow if he clears. To be determined about that from Lukasz's, body of work. You would expect him to probably get through. I mean, that's no knock. It's just kind of how the lay of the land. For guys to get claimed, it's almost sometimes rare when it happens. So it's more often with a guy of his age and with his, I guess, lack of experience in North America being just a second year, you would expect him to clear. So if he does clear, from a hypothetical standpoint, I'd expect him to be in tomorrow. He's a nice piece that you could add to your AHL roster with some good NHL experience last year, has proved that he can play at the NHL level, and he's a big body at like 6, I think he's 6'3" and probably 215 pounds. So big power forward, that would be a nice addition. And at the end of last year when he was with the Barracuda, he was going up and down, but he did spend some time with the Barracuda near the end of the year, and he really was, a dominating player at that level. So, he hasn't played a lot this year with the Sharks. I think he's only played 6 games, if I'm not mistaken. Doesn't have any points, so not a huge sample size this season so far. Don't quote me on the games he's played, but I don't think he's played a lot. So we expect to probably be a little rusty, but it'd be nice to have him back in the lineup.
Well, between now and the end of the month, Barracuda play 7 games, including 4 at home, 4 versus Stockton. Start off with a home-and-home versus Stockton. And you want to tell people what's going on with, over the next 3 home games, the Gilroy Strong jerseys?
Yep, absolutely. Of course, with the tragic events in the summer at the Gilroy Garlic Festival, we're helping raise some money over the month of December. The Sharks are doing something as well in January, but the Barracuda wearing warm-up jerseys. They said Gilroy Strong, if you guys have seen him yet. It's essentially a white Sharks or white Barracuda jersey with a really cool Gilroy Strong logo on the crest. A big orange kind of circle behind to kind of encapsulate the logo, but really cool look. And the money helps aid some of the families affected in the Gilroy Strong Foundation. So it's through the Sharks Foundation, who kind of is going to mediate the funds that come through. But you could bid on these jerseys by going to barracuda.gesture.com. That's the site where you can bid on the game worn jerseys. So they'll be worn actually just in warm up, so they won't be game worn, but they are worn. So they'll wear them all 5 games during the month of December, and then they'll auction them off as the month continues along. So it's a great cause. It's going to some much needed areas. So hopefully, if you have the ability to get your hands on one of these jerseys, we hope you can do so, and you're helping out a great cause as well.
So it's going to culminate with the last game of December, Pucks and Paws?
Yep, Pucks and Paws, December 29th. I don't know if you guys have dogs, but if you do, and anybody listening or watching, it's a great opportunity to bring your dog to the SAP Center. When do you get to do that? It'll be the 3rd annual Pucks and Paws game. You can bring your dog. $5 ticket for the dog, $10 ticket for humans. A little designated area of, water stations for the dogs, ability for the dogs to go in and out outside of the building, so you're not stuck inside in case they've got to go to the bathroom or what have you. So it's one of the best games of the year in my opinion. It's pretty fun to turn up the sound mics and the ice mics rather, and hear the dogs barking. It adds a little extra sound effects when the game's going on.
And I've never thought of this, the 2 previous Pucks and Paws games, but chuck a puck, you better watch out, because you start throwing those pucks out there and hold on to your dogs.
Yes. So. We would assume, when they count all the pucks, we'd assume a few are going to be, they're going to be a few short. I would assume a couple of those pucks are going home as chew toys for the dogs.
I was going to say, there might be a couple that are a little slobbery.
Yeah. Couple puncture holes in them.
Well, again, thanks so much for joining us for another episode of In the Reef. We'll, of course, talk to you in 2020. Have a great holiday. Have a great new year. And hopefully we just continue to see the Barracuda take December the way that it's been going so far, because so far it's been not too shabby.
Appreciate it, guys. Happy holidays to you as well. And go Sharks, go Cuda. We'll talk to you guys all soon.